Hello, investors. My name's Dave Meyer, and welcome to the BiggerPockets Podcast Network. Today, we are covering a breaking news story. If you haven't heard already, there have been a bunch of antitrust lawsuits lobbied against one of the biggest trade organizations in the entire country, the National Association of Realtors. And just last week, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, has settled these antitrust lawsuits. And what was contained in the settlement really is the potential to change the entire real estate investing industry. So today, in order to fully understand this super important topic, we're going to bring on Debra Kamin, who is a journalist from the New York Times, to discuss the most recent developments. Okay, so NAR is this essential part of the real estate buying and selling industry right now. As you said, they are sort of this invisible hand. Over the last couple of years, they faced many lawsuits, but there's been one in particular over the last few months that has been really important. Can you tell us about these antitrust lawsuits?
NAR has set rules for how agents are paid for the work that they do, for the commission that they receive, and even how that commission is communicated to them. And because they are so powerful and because they control so many aspects of the housing industry, there have been arguments against them that these rules are essentially anti-competitive. So 6% is this number that when we're talking about this settlement with NAR, everybody has been throwing it around. 6% is essentially the standard fee that you almost always have to pay, somewhere between 5 and 6% in America, if you are selling a home. This fee is not written anywhere. It is not set in stone. It is not required. And that has been NAR's argument. But because the way they've set up the rules and because there's really been no way for agents to be competitive in real estate, everyone has essentially charged the same fee. And when you sell a home and you pay 6% to your agent, that agent then will take half of that and give 3% to the buyer's agent. So if I'm selling my house, I pretty much just have to take on this additional cost of 6% of the sale price that I'm going to pay in commission to my agent. And then that agent's going to go ahead and pay the buyer's agent. And in 2018, 2019, a group of home sellers in Missouri looked at the contracts that they'd signed with their real estate agents and realized that they did not know that they could have negotiated that fee. And in some cases, they didn't even know they were paying that fee until the money had already come out of the transaction. And they thought, we might have a lawsuit. So they went and they got an attorney, and that spiraled into a class action lawsuit in Missouri that in October of last year, NAR lost. Nobody was shocked by the loss more than NAR themselves. They never expected it. And since then, it's really been just like a domino effect that brings us to where we are today.
I hear from real estate agents all the time, and I know from my own personal experience that these commissions are technically negotiable. And so what is sort of the point here, or why did the jury side with the plaintiffs here, saying that there was actually this collusion to keep prices high when technically you are able to negotiate?
So technically you are able to negotiate. And that has been NAR's argument all along. But whether people actually are aware that they can negotiate, and whether if they negotiate, they are then put at some sort of disadvantage in the market, is an entirely different conversation. The two pieces that were argued in court were not even really about the 6%. The first was this rule that NAR has that a seller agent can offer commission to a buyer's agent. And by doing so, it has made commissions high. So if I'm an agent selling a house, when I'm telling my clients, you need to pay commission, that commission needs to be big enough that I get my piece and the buyer's agent gets their piece. So that has inflated these commissions up to 6% because half of it has to be split with the buyer agent. And there was actually a rule that NAR had that anybody who was a member of the organization had to follow, that if I'm a real estate agent and I'm selling a house, I have to make an offer of commission on these databases where homes are listed to the buyer's agent. And basically what that means is buyer's agents, if they're taking customers around to see homes, can see before they even take people into the homes how much they stand to make if they sell that home. So why would anyone offer less than 3% if they're trying to sell a house? Why would they say, hey, come see this house, I'm only going to give you 2%. You're not going to get any buyers to come buy this house that you're trying to sell. And that has kept commissions inflated artificially. So that was the first thing. The jury said, this is a conspiracy. This is price fixing. There's no room for competition here because these rules have made it that everyone's offering the same thing because otherwise they can't compete. The other aspect of the argument was this idea that offers of commission are made on these databases in the first place, because that means that only people who are in this organization and following these rules can sell homes. It keeps all other people who might offer different types of commission or might even sell houses differently if they're not members of NAR, it keeps them out of the market. Because if you can't access the MLS, you can't access home listings. You can't sell a home without accessing home listings. So those were the two pieces that actually came down and were discussed in court.
So Debra, tell us a little bit about this settlement. We just heard about the judgment that was made back in October. What is the settlement that took place over the last week?
Yeah. So Friday morning, we're talking like really early Friday morning, like 1 a.m. Friday morning, NAR and the attorneys for the plaintiffs in these settlements decided to settle. And it came for many people as a surprise. When the verdict came down in October, NAR's stance really was that this was a false verdict. There was no price fixing. There was no collusion. They were going to appeal. They were going to appeal. They were going to appeal. That was their line. What happened after that lawsuit is the floodgates essentially opened and all these other copycat suits started being filed. And by the time we got to Friday, NAR was facing something like 20 different lawsuits, all making the same accusations. And the pressure had really become unsurmountable. So they decided to settle. The amount of the settlement is $418 million, which is a fair amount of money. But what's more important is the rules that they've agreed to change as a result of the settlement. And those include that sellers' agents can no longer make these offers of commission to buyers' agents using the databases. That's the main thing. And the other rule that homes have to be entered into these databases that are controlled by NAR, that rule has also changed. Wow. So what it's done is really, for the first time in 100 years, broken this hold that NAR has had over the real estate industry and allowed the possibility for competition to enter the market. And we all know that when competition enters the market, prices tend to go down because people can compete and offer the same services for less or offer different types of services. And that's what we're going to see.
If you are listening or watching on YouTube, make sure to go to the On the Market YouTube page to see the full interview with Debra.